Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you, Wayne, and thank all of you for being here this morning for Basin's 64th annual meeting. It is great to see so many familiar faces in the crowd, and we look forward to getting to know people attending their first Basin annual meeting. We appreciate you taking time to join us here in Bismarck. Each year, this meeting really serves as a cornerstone on our cooperative's calendar. It's a chance for us to come together, to catch up, to reflect, and probably most importantly, focus on the path ahead. Before we dive in, I want to recognize and thank the incredible team that works behind the scenes to bring everyone together and make this event possible. To our communications team, which is on screen here, your efforts do not go unnoticed, and your attention to detail helps set the tone for everything we'll accomplish together this week. So thank you, communications team. We have put together a robust agenda that we believe will offer both insight into Basin and our members, as well as inspiration for what the future holds. You'll hear from our keynote speaker, Mark Mills. Mark is a familiar face at Basin's annual meeting, having joined us several times over the years. The first time was actually last century. Mark is known for his fact-based analysis of energy systems. We are pleased to welcome him back as we explore the future of power, innovation, and importantly, infrastructure. We'll also hear from Terry Viswanath and Brock Taylor of CoBank, and Andy Whitesett of ACES Power Marketing. Terry and Andy are regularly on agendas at industry conferences, and we thought you would enjoy especially Terry's expertise on the demand side of our business related to the technology industry. ACES, of course, has a national perspective on the supply of electricity and natural gas, and Andy's perspectives on these markets is always thought-provoking. You're also going to hear from our Chief Financial Officer, Chris Johnson, and members of his team. They will update you on our financial results and some of the initiatives we are taking to continually enhance our financial performance. In addition, we have sessions focused on operations, system planning, our capital project activities, all this in order to give you a better understanding of the work we are doing and the investments we are making to ensure reliability of our system now and well into the future. So all of these discussions reflect the theme of this year's annual meeting, which is powering progress. Powering progress is what Basin was founded to do and what we continue to do. Our progress is powered by an incredible team, from plant operators and engineers to line workers and administrative personnel. Team Basin is hardworking, technically skilled, and most definitely mission-driven. Powering progress is a pursuit that we all should be extraordinarily proud of. As electric utilities, Basin and its members provide a public service and an essential service. The electrons that we produce and distribute are the raw materials of our modern economy. And our electrons are the key ingredients to higher standards of living. As this chart from Our World in Data demonstrates, GDP per capita is positively correlated with electricity consumption around the globe. Now, higher standards of living can be somewhat of what I'd call an abstract concept because they happen incrementally over time. But there are significant practical examples all across our service territories of our electrons helping to raise standards of living. For instance, in 2008, when oil fracking began to take off, primarily in the western side of our service territory and our member service territories in Colorado and North Dakota, the average price of a barrel of oil in 2008 was $94. So fast forward to today, and over the last 12 months, the average price of a barrel of oil has been $70. In this instance, our electrons have fueled higher standards of living via lower consumer prices. And this is something we should really be proud of. This is a benefit that's not just felt in our service territory. It is felt nationally and globally. So in addition to lower oil prices, fracking's advancements have also had favorable impacts on employment and wages, leading to higher standards of living. Although it is fair to point out that our members in McKenzie, Montreal, and Williams counties would correctly point out that there have been times over the last 20 years when you had a better chance of getting an oil well drilled on your land than getting your car repaired. And that's because all the mechanics had rushed to the oil fields pursuing higher wages. So that analogy or comparison reminds me of the old economist quote. And that quote is, "There are no solutions, there are only trade-offs." And we see this trade-off in Basin's financial results over the last 15 years. Lower natural gas costs have helped us keep our rates affordable, but those same lower natural gas costs have adversely impacted the financial performance of our largest subsidiary, Dakota Gasification. The development of the ethanol industry is another example this century of how collectively we have powered progress and at the same time increased standards of living. The ethanol industry has its most significant footprint in the eastern side of our service territory, and that's an area served by NIPCO, Corn Belt, East River, and L&L. So with the ethanol industry, similar themes are at play to what I mentioned earlier in the oil industry. You've got lower fuel costs nationally, you've got local infrastructure investment, higher employment, better wages, improved farm income, all contributing to higher standards of living that are fueled by our electrons. So these trends have fueled Basin's growth. This century, our member unit sales have grown 5.5% annually. That far outpaces the national average of 1% annually. For the next 10 years, we are forecasting that Basin's unit sales growth will be about 5% annually. In response to this growth, our 10-year capital expenditure plan continues to grow. At last year's annual meeting, we projected 10-year capital expenditures of $7.8 billion. And that's just at Basin, that's an unconsolidated number. This year, our 10-year capital expenditure forecast stands at $10.6 billion. That's after spending about $500 million last year on capital expenditures. So the year-over-year increase in our capital expenditure program is attributable to about $2 billion in additional transmission capital expenditures, with the remainder coming from generation capital expenditures. It is important to note, and I emphasize this, that we have good control over the timing of our generation capital expenditures. But the Southwest Power Pool can direct us to construct transmission projects. So these capital expenditures are going to more than double our balance sheet, while also increasing our dispatchable resources by approximately 50% and our transmission mileage by over 30% to 3,400 miles. Admittedly, this growth comes with a cost. Our current generation fleet, displayed up here, is on our books at an installed cost of $800 per kilowatt. We project that Bison Generation Station will have an installed cost of $2,700 per kilowatt. Similarly, our existing transmission system has a net book value of right around $400,000 per mile of line. Our new transmission projects are projected to cost more than $2 million per mile of line. So similar to lower oil cost, improving standards of living, higher electric rates provide a headwind to higher standards of living. Here again, we see the trade-offs referenced by that old economist. So Basin does not shy away from the hard decisions that come with these trade-offs. Future reliability of our system requires somewhat higher costs today. However, and I emphasize this, we are building infrastructure that will last generations. It will benefit our children and grandchildren. I imagine that many of you, like me, will embrace this trade-off. It's a trade-off that Basin has made before. From 1970 to 1986, our balance sheet grew 100-fold, from $30 million in 1970 to $3 billion in 1986. Over that same period of time, our rates increased 8.5-fold. Now, in doubling our balance sheet, we're not talking about anything like that amount of rate pressure, but there is rate pressure. So let's just think back a few months when it was negative 30 degrees or colder across much of our service territory on February 20th of this year. None of us lamented these trade-offs that were made 50 years ago. To the contrary, we are thankful that people of such determination and vision existed. And our hope for posterity, our hope for the future is that posterity will judge us in a similar fashion. This reminds us that we do stand on the shoulders of giants. And hopefully this allows us to see the horizon just a little bit more clearly as we embark on a $10.6 billion capital expenditure program. We're not naive to the risk involved in these endeavors. We have developed a financial strategy to maintain our strong credit profile and A credit ratings. This will allow us to minimize interest costs on our bond financings. And we think those bond financings are going to approach about $8 billion over the next decade. Matt Ehrman's engineering team and his construction teams have been diligent in planning and developing our projects, and they have put together an enviable record of on schedule and on budget construction this decade. However, we are going to have to navigate changing national policies. At each of our last two annual meetings, I've discussed the threats that were posed to reliability from the EPA's regulatory overreach. I think we're all aware that national policy has now shifted to pursuing energy dominance. Reshoring manufacturing has remained a consistent theme across administrations, but tariffs are now being used to incent reshoring. We welcome more rational environmental and energy policies, but the tariffs do pose a significant risk to our capital expenditure programs. The old economists would remind us that these are in fact trade-offs. To address this, Ryan Norell's government relations team is busy reminding leaders in Washington that energy dominance is primarily built with copper, steel, aluminum, international supply chains, and hard work. John Klein's procurement team pursues domestic supplies and raw materials first, but international sourcing is unavoidable. When we engage our national leaders on these energy issues, we do not do so on a partisan basis. We do so in pursuit of energy policies that foster reliability, affordability, and a commitment to environmental stewardship. All of these are consistent with our mission. We have a vast service territory. Our members serve red states and they serve blue states. Our electrons are not Republican or Democrat. Our members' retail service territory is 500,000 square miles, or as we like to say, 12% of the land of the free and the home of the brave. As measured by retail service territory, we are collectively the largest electric utility in the United States. There is only one Basin Electric. Roughly 60% of our unit sales are made in the states of North Dakota and South Dakota. In North Dakota, we have approximately 60% market share, and we are 5 times larger than the largest investor-owned utility in the state. In South Dakota, Basin and its members have about 35% market share, and we are twice the size of the largest investor-owned utility in the state. Now, in most states, generation and transmission cooperatives are dwarfed by their neighboring investor-owned utility. So our market share does influence our strategy relative to other G&Ts. For example, we can't rely on market purchases to the extent that many other G&Ts can. And we've seen the challenges that transmission-dependent G&Ts encounter. So what do? Well, we remain committed to putting steel in the ground, and we're having great success doing exactly that. In December, we energized 2 transmission lines, Pioneer to Judson and Roundup to Coomer Ridge. While these lines are modest in length, they total about 47 miles. They have helped reduce congestion in North Dakota, and that provides significant savings to all of our members. Pioneer 4 has come online in stages this summer, and we expect to take operational control of the final combustion turbine there this week. This 580 megawatt project is expected to come in slightly under its $805 million budget, and thankfully, it is also on schedule. As we celebrate Pioneer's completion, we look further ahead and know even more is going to be required. That's why we're moving forward with Bison Generation Station, which represents reliable, dispatchable generation to serve our long-term needs. I'm happy to report that last week, the North Dakota Public Service Commission approved our siting permit. So construction will commence shortly on this $4 billion project, and we expect it to achieve final completion in 2030. So there is a common, what we would call a misconception when people hear about our members' growth and the growth in our capital expenditures, and that assumption that this growth is fueled by data centers in the technology industry. So we do serve 30 megawatts, or 300 megawatts of data centers, but as requests from those customers increased from 25 megawatts to hundreds of megawatts to thousands of megawatts, we knew that we needed to develop a business model to serve those loads. So interest from large loads in our system exceeded 16,000 megawatts recently. To put that into context, Basin's current peak demand is 5,100 megawatts. So we knew that serving these loads under our Class A rate would effectively dilute the ownership our existing members have in our generation and transmission assets, which we have spent decades building. So we spent the first half of this year developing a large load business model with our members. This model shifts much of the development and financing risk from Basin and our members to the large loads themselves. And that insulates our members from stranded assets and other risks. And most utilities have developed similar programs, and while there are distinctions between each of these programs, we would not characterize those distinctions as having material differences between the programs. So we're well positioned to capitalize on opportunities to serve data centers while mitigating significant risks to our members. And there are risks associated with the capital expenditure boom that is occurring in the technology industry. We have seen 4 similar booms in the last 30 years. The fiber optic and internet bubbles late last century, the housing boom 20 years ago, and the fracking boom that busted 10 years ago. Now, economic order was restored in each of these industries, but at a significant cost and a number of years. So, artificial intelligence might prove to be transformational, but it's unclear if the technology industry has figured out how to monetize these opportunities. And absent a return on these investments, the capital expenditures might quickly fade. So we stand ready to power this progress, but we are rational about the risks. Now, admittedly, that is a note of caution. Fortunately for all of you, we have Mark and Terry here to tell you why my caution is unfounded. So folks, it is my privilege to welcome our keynote speaker to the stage. Mark Mills is a physicist and energy expert who has dedicated his career to helping people understand the real-world challenges and opportunities behind our energy systems. He is the founder and executive director of the National Center for Energy Analytics and a published author who brings practical insights to today's most pressing energy debates. He's also a strategic partner in a tech-focused venture fund and previously worked in the White House Science Office during the Reagan administration. Now, Mark, we have an unwritten rule at Basin that says the most important things that we do outside of the 4 corners of our job descriptions is to tell each other when we are wrong. So please let the crowd know why my caution about the AI boom might in fact be wrong. Folks, please join me in welcoming Mark Mills to Basin's 64th annual meeting.